Hello and welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast. Now, much like David Bowie and Black Sabbath, changes are abound at Starks Park after we've returned from this extensive break that we've had. It's been a week, but it feels like it's been much longer. I'm your host this evening, Robbie Weir, and we're of course back to talk about all the goings on at Raith Rovers, as well as look ahead to this Saturday's match against Greenock Morton, where affectionately referred to as the wife swap of Scottish football by, I believe, on that last podcast it was described as. As I say, I'm your host this evening, Robbie Weir. Joined firstly by Blair Hopcroft. How are you getting on, Blair?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm not going to lie, it was nice to have a week off. It was. I know that we're going to be here for about 4 hours, to be fair, because a lot has happened in that week off. But it's been a pleasant week.
See, now if we don't do 4 hours, it's going to be somewhat disappointing. There's going to be someone out there in the comments like...
Nobody's want to hear us rattle on for 4 hours, mate. There's nobody that daft.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Also joined by Scott Fleming. How are you getting on, Scott?
Yeah, good, mate. Just same as Blair, to be honest. I was kind of happy enough for a week off. I know you would obviously prefer a Scottish Cup tie, but at the end of the day, the guys have got a week off, and, well, I know we'll probably talk about it pretty soon, but it was an extra week or so for the new signing to get used to grips, how we play and stuff like that, so it might have not been the worst thing for us to get that week off, and also the players to get a sort of reset to go into this final stretch of the season as well, because we're now at, I think, officially the final third. I think it's, 12 games to go or whatever now, so, I mean... we just need to knuckle down and hopefully push at the top four. If not, just make sure we're anywhere near that bottom two.
Yeah. More about that later on, because we do have a million things to cover off. And of course, she's surviving the weather problems of her own, apparently, based on what she was saying prior to the recording starting. We've got Carol Smith in Barcelona. How are you getting on, Carol?
I'm all right. I'm holding on to what remains of my terrace. It's been very windy today. There has been cars on trees. There's a video doing the rounds of a guy walking his dog and almost getting taken out with the bottom end of a tree just upturning. Yeah, it's been fun and windy today.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure that they would reflect badly upon the Cowden Beef video of a trampoline rolling down the street circa 2010. The early days of viral. A guy quite happily shouting trampoline repeatedly. But anyway, a throwback to that. That can be a thumbnail for this evening. All change, shall we say, the winds have changed to segue this one at Starks Park, blowing through. We've had quite a few departures this week. We'll stick to the main ones. Firstly, it came through Blair. Dean McKenzie has decided to step away from his role at the club as general manager, and just in general, what did you make of the decision for him to take a step away from the club?
Yeah, I have to say, for all the changes and all the personnel moving on, this was the one that I was most saddened to see. It's probably the best way to put it. I've dealt with Dean a wee bit through the Macmillan Club and stuff, and he's just a genuinely really nice guy. He's always kind of, what you see is what you get, and he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve. He's really honest. When you speak to him, he doesn't, I don't even know how to put it, like, there's no airs and graces about him at all. He's just a right kind of football guy, like, and really, in my opinion anyway, had done a really good job with the club. But I know he's a busy guy. Like, I've said this before, but there's a reason that every boardroom up and around the country is full of guys in their 60s and 70s. Because with the exception of the clubs where they're paying big wages to these guys to come in and run a football club, like, it's a full-time job. And a lot of people didn't actually appreciate, and Rury spoke about that in his interview, which I know we'll kind of go through, but there's a lot of work involved, a hell of a lot of work. It's day to day, and it's constant. And when you've got your own businesses and you're running your own things, your own life kind of thing, it's just not feasible really to spread yourself that thin. And if you get to the stage where businesses that you've set up and you've been running for a long time, and I actually genuinely don't know if this is the case, but if they're suffering in any way, shape or form, it's people's jobs and people's livelihoods and stuff as well. So he's got to make decisions that work for him and his family. And it's like Rury said in that interview as well, he's been involved in football now for quite a long time. It's obviously quite a stressful and quite a full-on kind of job. I remember speaking to, it was Ali Moore actually, just kind of into that COVID time when I was involved with the social media and stuff. I spoke to Ali quite regularly, and because he was on the board at the time, and there was a lot kind of going on, and like sleepless nights, and I just think it matters so much to these kind of people that it's a big undertaking for them. So yeah, him moving on, absolutely with the best of wishes as far as I'm concerned, and I hope that in time he maybe even thinks about coming back and getting involved in some way, shape or form if it kind of opens up for him to do so, because he's been a real positive change, I think, around the place. Quite a quiet guy, and obviously not one for the forefront of it all, but a lot of what's gone on in the background has been him and kind of his hard work. So yeah, sad to see him go, but change is as good as a holiday, I suppose. So we'll see what happens next.
Adding to the phrase collection of things that I've never heard before from this podcast, true educational experience. Scott, just to come to yourself, I mean, it's probably quite fair to say that he's rejuvenated the club. What are your experiences been in terms of sort of seeing that change come in? Just your thoughts on the move in general as well.
Yeah, I think obviously when the guys came in originally, which is now 2.5 years ago, they were very open in terms of how they wanted to make an impact and make it visually clear for all the fans to see what was going on. They wanted it to be a vibrant place when you came to the football. They wanted people to just enjoy the experience of coming to the ground again. I mean, at the time they took over at a time that the club was kind of in a very much a sort of lull. There was not much going on. We were just going week to week, as I say. But I think that first season that they were involved, they couldn't have asked for a better season to be new into as well. I mean, the way it just fell, as Rury said, like he said he looked back on his camera roll, all the memories, some of the games that we had in that season. I'm positive I'll not see a season like it in terms of how games unfolded like that. If so, then I'm welcome to it, but I genuinely don't think we'll see anything like it. Just the fact that it was week after week after week for a while. But in terms of Dean as well, I've had very limited contact with Dean myself, but from what I've ever spoken to him about, it's always been he's quite a quiet, reserved guy as well, and but has always looked to do the best for the club, and that's all you can ask for with these sort of guys when they come into the club, is that their fourth sort of sight is that everything is to be better in the club, but at the same time, if he's thinking that it's a bit too much on his plate and he's got to think about his own businesses, then fair enough. And I agree with Blair that it is clearly very tough for all these guys that have got their own businesses and their own jobs to think about outside of the club. And to be fair, there is times even myself that you forget that some of these guys have maybe 2 or 3 businesses on the side, on the side. That's their income and that's their jobs. But
Yeah.
the Rovers, at the same time, the fact that the position they're in, they can't say that the Rovers is on the side. That it is quietly almost a full-time position. And so, yeah, in terms of the rest of that, I just hope that we can kind of get somebody back in the boardroom to kind of help these guys out, because I do fear that it's still going to be a bit too much for the 3 of them. I know that Rooney did say in his interview that these guys are wanting to just bring in somebody to replace Dean as a sort of day-to-day general manager and nothing to do with the football side. But it wouldn't surprise me if they eventually went, well, we could do an extra sort of pair of hands to help us with the footballing side as well. But I suppose we'll find out in the near future what comes of that.
Yeah, I think there's a few points in there to really unpack. Firstly, I mean, I don't think we would have started this podcast. I mean, of course, we wouldn't have started it when Rury getting involved, because that in time meant Graham stepped away from sort of K107, which was like the predecessor to this, as such. But yeah, you're absolutely both right to sort of pinpoint that, like, it's not the bread and butter for these guys. It's they come in, and I think there's a lot of time, and it's very, I know I've said it a lot recently, but it's quite easy to be spending other people's money and sort of telling them what to do. And I think there's probably a lot behind the scenes that we as fans don't see, and we don't appreciate. Rury, again, we'll come to talk about the interview, but things like having to make tough decisions or cost cutting bits that aren't the easiest decisions to make. Because again, it probably impacts people's livelihoods. Carol, the applications are of course open with regards to the new general manager role, which the club have put up. Scott rightfully says that they're looking for that in a non-footballing capacity, but someone that can be able to take on, maybe take away from the load from the directors as such, from having to organise a lot of the things behind the scenes, and to maybe get a bit more autonomy on that front. Do you think that's quite a tough role for the club to be filling, given the sort of graft that Dean's put in into the club, and obviously again just your own experiences, given being that you are quite far away, you're heavily involved as a volunteer with the club?
I mean, I'd just like to say that Dean was great to work with on things like organising International Women's Day and on the forum. He was always, like Blair said, really down to earth, just no airs and graces, not just wanted to roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty. So I think that's going to be the hard part to fill, is that sort of mucking in and getting down. But I imagine a football club, you're trying to run a business that's like a cross between an entertainment business and a sports club. And you've got to try and entertain people every week so you can get them through the door. And you're trying to make business predictions on things that are so variable. Because, I mean, I think we've only got 2 home games on a Saturday of this last quarter, because everyone's moved because of cup fixtures, etc.
Yeah, postponements in cup games.
Postponements. So and we do know that numbers go down sort of midweek and stuff. So there's loads of variables. So I think it's going to have to be someone with a lot of experience in football, but not maybe on the pitch bit, but definitely on the business side. If not in football, in some sort of entertainment and entertainment management. I can't think of the word.
So I always think I was going to say, just a funny thing. We're talking about businesses and they run their own businesses, and he's got so Dean does like that. I think it's garage conversions and loft conversions and all that conservatory stuff, and like that's obviously generating an income for him, and yet he spends almost all of his time at Stark Park, where he's effectively running a business that is going to make him no money. Like it's a completely thankless task. And people just kind of take it for granted because we all love the club, and you almost can't imagine a world where it doesn't exist. But it relies on people like him and John Sim for a long time and all these other guys. They're not taking any money out of this. They're not, they're not bankrolling their lives on Scottish First Division football. Like it's not happening.
It's sort of the over definition of doing it for the love, because I'm sure at points they don't love it. I'm sure at points it keeps them awake at night and is a stress beyond belief.
That's probably the difficult bit as well for the board of directors, to be able to appoint a general manager that's not just doing it to like, because I'd expect, like, without casting aspersions, I'm sure they're going to find a really good candidate, but you don't want someone that's just going to go like, well, I'm a football fan, I want to go into any football club, and I could do that easy, because it's like, I know football, I watch it every other Saturday. It's not going to be that simple, because you're going to need a degree of business acumen, you're going to need a bit to be quite switched on. So it's going to be one to keep an eye on.
It'll be somebody coming in, and it'll be their full-time job. It'll be their source of income. So they'll be entirely invested in making it work, kind of thing. Whereas you've got, like I say, you've got guys that are like Rury and that, putting money in. They're not taking anything back out. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of doing it just because it's something they want to do, something they love, something they're interested in. But it is a really quite a thankless task a lot of the time. But I think it's just when you look at, if you look at the span of time that Dean's been involved with the club, and I know it's not just him, but he's been a big part of it. I don't think there's anybody can look at it and say that it's not better than it was when he came in.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
it's 100% a better place. There's a better ethos about the place. There's a better feeling about the place. And he's got to take a lot of credit for that.
And I think as well, it's very easy to overlook the work that has been done. And I know people use it cynically after a bad result where they sort of say, well, at least we've got new tumble dryers in the back. But that stuff like that is important for like when you're like on a fundamental
day-to-day
basis.
Because the people behind the scenes do jobs. As someone who used to work behind the scenes in theatre, and I'm going to advocate this and go for a bit of a rant, right? Okay, because Mr. Ginger Joy over the Atlantic was complaining about Big Bunny's performance on Sunday and it not being a good show of Americanisms, etc. It's like a lot of people put hard work into that. A lot of people work behind the scenes. So new tumble dryers makes the person who's drying clothes life a lot easier, which means that the players don't get nipped at when they take their clothes in to get dry, which means their life is happier. There's the kick-on effect.
Yeah.
It's the behind the scenes. If you don't have anyone behind the scenes, the club doesn't run. It doesn't run on supporters and footballers alone.
I remember before John McGinn used to always say that, like, I'm sure he's been name-checked and saying in interviews, like when he's been at Aston Villa, that Starks Park was the worst ground to go to, just because of like how the away changing rooms were, the pitch, etc. From when he was there. But yeah, it's all these sort of incremental changes that have been brought in and they've been made for sort of the greater good, and not always easy to appreciate in the heat of the moment, but long term they should make the club a better place, which ultimately is something that we're all keen for and we're all aiming for. So yeah, let's move on to the second bit of movement from the club. This was a board decision made on a footballing basis rather than anything else. But John Potter, who also arrived with the sort of consortium when they first came in, is to park the club. Blair, just to come to you, how tough do you think it is to gauge how successful John Potter was in terms of his overall role, and just your thoughts on that change being made?
I think it's really hard, to be fair. I think it is really easy to boil it down to what you think his job was and therefore decide whether or not he was successful at doing that thing you think he did. But I think that the truth of it is, I don't think any of us really genuinely understand exactly what his remit has been. Because for all the right reasons, we don't need to know exactly what his day-to-day job is. He had a job to do in the club. I think it's a kind of a double-edged sword in the sense that I personally had no issue with him being there at all. I think a lot of people think that he's solely responsible for recruitment and stuff. I've mentioned a few times on here, I've never been entirely convinced that that's the case. I felt like his job was almost to take that off the manager in terms of the negotiating and the harassing players, which is what he seemed to be really good at, actually, picking up the phone and chatting to guys. And he's obviously well connected, and particularly at our level of football, locally anyway. But at the same time, I actually really liked Rury's explanation of it when he talked about the kind of role originally was seen as, you know, that we were going to have a women's team and we were going to have a youth team, potentially a reserve football youth teams coming through, all of that. And he was going to oversee the whole thing. And none of that's really come to fruition for whatever reason. You know what I mean? It happens. Life moves on. But he's basically a position where he's looking after a men's first team, and that's it. And actually, it's an extra body, that it's an extra wage that you probably don't need to spend. On the flip side to that, I think the one thing that people haven't really considered and don't really give him the credit for is we've had, in his time anyway, 3 permanent managers come and go, and he's been the common factor through it all. And I think actually the level of stability that we've had despite the managerial changes, in terms of we've never really had the proper collapse and all the rest of it. Or certainly in my opinion, I don't think we have. I think he takes a lot of credit in just terms of keeping that kind of constant through, because, you know, you go back to when McGlynn left, that was it. Everybody was gone. There was nothing. Like, whereas when Ian Murray was departed with, and when Neil Collins sorted off back to America, you didn't go, oh my God, who's going to take the team on Saturday? John Potter will step in for a couple of weeks and he'll kind of be fine. I think at this stage, though, the size of club we are, you probably need him or you need an assistant manager. You probably don't need both. And we quite clearly with Dougie Imrie are going to have an assistant manager. So I think it was a natural change that was going to happen at some point.
Yeah, Scott, just to come to you, Blair mentions Dougie Imrie there. How helpful do you think it is that he's got the ability to sort of take full control out of the situation now? He's obviously worked at Morton, where he's been his own man. He's been the guy to go off and do it up until the recently departed Billy Davies and his technical head coach. If anyone on a Morton side has tuned in and figured that one out, please drop us a comment and let us know. But yeah, just how do you think that'll be for Dougie Imrie, given his experience and his background of being able to sort of do his own work?
Well, first, I hope to God we didn't bring in a technical coach, put it that way. But no, I think it kind of, I could see it coming a wee bit with Dougie, just the fact that the way that he was running things at Morton, he was very hands-on himself in terms of just how he recruited players, his day-to-day stuff with the players. You could see, I mean, I actually watched a wee bit, Open Goal did something with him last season, I think it was, where they did like a day in the life, like the Morton manager, basically. And you saw even from these, they went into what like his and Andy Millen's office was basically, and there were really only was them two, and then there was like I think another desk that you had like the goalie coach, and then one other guy like shared, so you could tell it was basically them two that were running things anyway. So I did wonder if that was going to be the case in the summer. I didn't think it was going to happen this soon. So. Well, fair play, I suppose. The club are thinking about trying to help him out as much as possible and as quick as possible. But and we've also seen like little things like the goalie coach coming in that he's had before. So they've fully bought into Dougie Imrie. That's what they've done. So
Yeah.
it's now a case of right. Let's hope that it all works out because we've fully bought into it. Because on the flip side of John Potter leaving, I agree with Blair in terms of nobody actually really knows, unless you're John Potter yourself, what you were doing at Starks Park every day.
Yeah.
I know he was heavily involved with the community side of things in terms of he was overseeing like the underage groups with all the girls teams, the boys teams. He did all the stuff where they could sign contracts and all that sort of side of things as well. But in terms of what he was doing for the sort of the main team itself, I'm not really sure. Other than, as we said, I think he seemed to be more hands-on to me anyway in the first season, because it seemed like he was actually on the training pitch every day with Ian Murray. If you go by social media pictures, every training session you seen him in the background with balls in hand, feeding them in or whatever he was doing. But so I don't know if he's taken a backward step and now Dougie's just went, no, I don't need him, and I would rather that wage for an extra player or whatever he needs it for. But yeah, I do think it's a case of we've bought into Dougie Imrie and we're going, right, well, you tell us what you need and
Yeah.
we'll see. I actually never got into the point I was going to say, though, that the John Potter leaving, what Blair touched on in terms of a smooth transition to the next manager, that's my only fear if Dougie Imrie doesn't work out, is what happens next, because you've then gotten rid of your analyst guy, you've gotten rid of John Potter. I mean, I know that we gave it to Hanlon very briefly for a game previously, but I mean, is that going to be the case again if for some reason it doesn't work out for Dougie Imrie at the club? But I hope that it's a case that Imrie's there and we're successful, but it is just at the back of my mind of what is going to happen going forward if that is, because he has removed these people that were in these positions to take over.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that, well, that's a bridge that we would cross when we come to it. And I think that it does feel like it's not something that's anything that's, again, this is Raith Rovers. So within 2 weeks' time,
Don't say it. Don't jinx it. Just don't say it. Don't.
It's one that I'm not going to be as bad as Wade on the pre-match for the trip to Somerset Park.
I just don't see it happening.
Yes. But what I would say is that I think that with Dougie Imrie comes across as being like he knows what he wants. I think when John Potter came in, you had Ian Murray, who's like before he's always been like, right, I've worked with a director of football over in Norway. I'm quite open to it. I'm quite transparent. Dougie Imrie or Ian Murray seemed like quite a flexible character. Neil Collins, quite in terms of the way that he fought. Barry Robson, it's Barry Robson, exactly. But with Dougie Imrie, I think that the board are probably saying like, look, we know if we give you the tools, and I get that it's been more than Dougie Imrie going in and saying, I'm not working with this guy, I can't be bored with him, get rid of him. I think that it's been very much like the board have said, like, probably leaned on him for his opinion and sort of said, like, are you quite happy to proceed with this? Again, this is all just speculation, but Dougie Imrie does feel like the type of manager that's just going to be able to move forward with it. And again, that's the confidence that you want to have. You want to be able to sort of put that down and use that and sort of say, like, okay, he'll feel he's getting the full backing going ahead. Now,
I'd imagine it's probably in Imrie's head as well, just budget-wise. Like, there's obviously a football budget and then there's a non-football budget for one of a, like, for everything else. Potter must have been coming out the football budget, same as the analyst and everybody, all of those coaches all come out of the football budget. If it frees up enough money to, maybe not to sign another player, but to go from signing a player on X amount of money to X plus whatever, just being able to bolster that wage that you can offer somebody. I mean, maybe that's all Imrie's thinking about.
And I know that Imrie's already sort of spoken about like having one eye on the summer and sort of laying down the groundworks for sort of players that he might not be able to get at the moment, but will be out of contract there. So keen to see how that, of course.
It is a wee bit surprising actually that I know that we've seen him. What was he? 4 years at Morton, or 4 seasons at Morton.
About that, aye.
So I mean, he guarantees you sixth place basically every season, but it's more the fact that it's surprising to see. I know that you watched them firsthand doing it at Morton, but it's still surprising to see somebody that's so, well, newish to management in terms of the fact that he's still quite young, that doesn't work with like a director of football or anything. Like, usually these sort of guys, they work with these sort of people. Imrie's one of the only ones I can think of in Scottish football at that sort of age that wants to do it all himself.
Yeah, because even
obviously he's got Andy Millen there to help him out as well. But I mean, in terms that he wants to run it how he wants to run it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it kind of speaks volumes that like when Dougie Imrie came to the Rovers, like immediately he's coming in because we're getting Andy Millen with him. Like that's actually a really good point there, Scott. And the fact that he's not going, oh well, I work with Billy Davies at work. Can we see if we can bring him in as well? It's very much like I know who I'm wanting, and to be able to proceed with that. Right, let's turn ourselves to the must-see interview that came out and came to the fore. So we had one of the best interviewers in Scottish football chase down and track down a lifelong fan. I'm not talking about Josh Mullen running after Ross Matthews outside Tynecastle for being inspired. Rury Kilgour was sat down, of course, by Raith TV, Davy Hancock. Just firstly to say huge credit to them for taking obviously an hour in terms of interview time, but then you've got the editing and everything else to get a really, really candid, transparent interview with Rury. As we say, we all know him as a lifelong fan, but also as well a director. Covered plenty of topics, including the boardroom changes, the club's current sort of situation and circumstances, maybe dispelling a few rumours, looking at things like the pitch, potential investment, potential areas of growth as well, and points to move forward with. So just, Carol, just give me your initial thoughts on what you made of the interview when you saw that drop through and you take the time to listen to it and you see sort of even brief notes about it. What were your thoughts?
I mean, I'm going to be honest, an hour, my first thought was, this is going to be a long watch. But it didn't feel like an hour. It was, I mean, Davey's questions, I mean, the way he started the interview by going, I'm not going to just ask you questions, we're going to see how this goes, but this are the areas I want to cover. I think it made it feel like a really candid, natural conversation and didn't feel like anyone was hiding anything or it was confirming silly rumours. It was open and honest, really. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think that's a fair critique of it. And a lot of the sort of first quarter or so of the interview talking about the likes of Dean McKenzie and John Potter leaving, giving full explanations and clear understanding about, like, because Davey comes right in and he asks almost immediately, like, what's going on? Is it cost cutting or is it just change? So I thought that was really nice the way that it was laid out. Blair, the topic of investment came up. Now, there's been rumours floating about for a good while. We've not spoken about it because generally we try not to sort of comment on rumours as such. We wait to react to stuff before, rather than sort of saying, well, I've heard this or heard that. There was, Rury basically acknowledges in an interview that there had been potential investors come up to the club for a sort of short spell, spent some time, were quite impressed with a lot of the things going on. He pinpointed the sort of key points that they would want to see improvements in, and mentioned that it was on ice for the moment. Just with the current state of the club at the moment, do you think investment's sort of one of those areas that's necessary for the club to move forward on the footballing side? And what did you take away from the interview in terms of that aspect yourself?
Yeah, I think it's important, actually, the investment, probably more so in the last 6 months or so than I kind of thought it was. When the rumours first started circulating, I was a bit kind of, we'll wait and see what happens. And then it obviously gained a bit of traction and stuff. They were coming up to see the place and all the rest of it, and there was some pretty positive talks. I think, I'd echo what Carol said. Kudos to Davey in particular. Like, his interview style is incredible. Like I've said before, we're so lucky to have somebody like him involved in our club media, and the fact that we don't even have to pay for it is even more so. But he kind of chats through it with Rury and stuff, and I really liked the way that Rury kind of laid it out, and it was this idea that, you know, the landscape has changed. You know, they came in 3 and a bit years ago with this 5-year plan. They had this, and it's funny, Scott said at the beginning about they obviously had a really good first year and they were really lucky to have that first year. I kind of wonder, there's a wee bit of me wonders whether actually they probably would be slightly better off had that not happened quite so quickly, because it was like almost all the expectation just went whoom, straight through the sky. And then it's, how do you follow up on that? How do you maintain that? And then how do you do that with the landscape changing? Because, you know, Dunfermline have got these external investors coming in. There's a Yankee throwing money into Ayr United. There's money left, right, centre. St Johnstone are coming down with the big money. Ross County are going to be in the league with us next year unless something goes drastically wrong. And Uncle Roy's going to dip his hands in his pocket again. You've got Inverness potentially coming up, and, you know, like, they're going to end up with a wee bit of investment as well. And the landscape changes year on year in terms of the investment coming in and the money coming into football. I mean, it's obviously the Morton thing this week as well. It's a very different kettle of fish, but you've got the potential of £1 million coming into Morton, like, and that kind of investment. So the idea that this 5-year plan that they set out 3 and a bit years ago is worth anything anymore, honestly, it isn't, because the landscape changes so much in that 5 years that they have to change and adapt. And actually, they're probably, this is the truth of it now, is that they're probably not in a position to be able to kind of do that final bit of the 5-year plan. It's almost like they've done all the off-field stuff and they've kind of got the systems in place and they've got the staff around it. And then the last bit was, let's get the playing squad and let's get the team. Now we've got the off-field bit Premier League standard, effectively. Let's get the rest of it to match. And they probably now, compared to 3 years ago, they just probably don't have the finances to do it. Like, the game has changed so much at this level. that they just don't have the finances to do that and bring in the players that you need to be competitive. When you see some of the wages that are being talked about in the Championship now, it's mad. When you think back 5 years ago, you would never have had that kind of money getting spent in the Championship. It just didn't happen, with the exception of the Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United, or whoever came down from the Premier League, having had a really bad season and then just got themselves straight back up again. You just didn't have that level of investment. So I think external investment is probably quite important now for the club. I think it'd be really good to have that come to fruition. I think we've got some really good people still involved, with Rury and Alan Halliday and Colin Smart in there that that genuinely care about the club and want the best for it. They probably just now need somebody to come in with a bit more kind of a bit more collateral and a bit more kind of connections within the game and stuff, to be able to kind of take them to that next step. So I really hope, because I know for a fact there was a lot of work done in the background. Rury in particular had done a lot of work to get that deal even to the point where it was being considered. So I do kind of feel for him a little bit that it's on ice as it were, but at least it's not gone. They've got things that they need to kind of implement and things that they need to kind of enact. And as he said, they're all doable. They're all manageable. I suppose your investors are probably just going to need to see you committing to what you're saying you're going to do and getting the right people in the right places and stuff. But fingers crossed it's not too far away, because that is always the worry, that if everybody else around us is getting that kind of level of investment or getting that money coming in, that you go from being a top 4 side to being a 6th, 7th, 8th side pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the points that were pulled out about sort of the areas of development that were needed, that have been sort of questioned, were the pitch, and the circumstances around that. And I know that it had been sort of mentioned about before that there was sort of this understanding that we needed to replace the pitch at the end of this season, and that's sort of been disputed at the moment, and they're sort of exploring the options because of what Johnson had initially been told when the pitch was getting put down. Also, as well, the sort of corporate structure of the club, which if you want a full breakdown of that, good luck. It's on the Raith Trust website, and it's exceptionally detailed. I do have to give credit to Alan and the rest of the people at the Raith Trust, because put a lot of work in to make sure that that's sort of conveyed in a manner that you can actually attempt to digest. And then as well, just the sort of the stadium situation as well, I think, was the other one. So I think with these points, they've all been points that we've been kind of compass mentis about in the background, and we've all been aware of as fans. Now, it's quite easy as fans to be like, right, we do this, we do that, we do this. I'm sure if you sat down and you spoke to John Sim and you says, how come we're not all under this one structure, and how come we've got about 3 companies? And John Sim would probably laugh quite heavily, and then sort of explain it's not that easy. I feel like it's a good opportunity to sort of focus and sort of say that we are, as a club, everyone I'm sure wants to work towards the same goals. So it's about enabling that. And again, it's easy as a supporter to sit and sort of comment and sort of say about it. But at the same time, it's good that the club are kind of facing up to these things, because I think in the background they've sort of sat there and sort of a lot of fans have asked questions. Now might be the time for them to sort of look moving forward with it. And while it's going to be difficult, being able to progress. There was a wee bit, in terms of the news, Scott, there was a few positives that were dropped in there by Rury, sort of particularly about the Randolph and sort of developments up there. What did you make of that, sort of the potential for looking at a new, it was sort of angled as a new training hub and community facility up the other end of Kirkcaldy? What did you take away from that?
I think in terms of for the community in the town itself, I think would be a positive for sure, because you've obviously Rury touched that you've got all them new houses that are currently getting built up that end of the town. I mean, sports wise, you do have already football pitches and stuff that get rented out there for junior games and stuff at weekends. But in terms of if you could get a proper hub up there and then you can then, I mean, you already have a connection with the community in terms of Glen Rothis leaving, all these sort of areas. I know that obviously you've got East Fife sort of close to leaving and Methil as well, but I think if you do get that side of the town as well, you could, it might be easier to attract all these sort of kids in the sort of neighbouring towns anyway. But the only thing I couldn't quite work out, maybe you guys can tell me with that, is would this be more a thing that's happening if we are going to a grass pitch? That's what I couldn't work out. Or is this likely to happen even if we just relay a new pitch that it is like a 5G surface?
Well, I suppose I'd guess that they're looking at it on a longer timescale. Firstly, you need to secure funding, I think, would probably be the issue that jumps out immediately. So if you get your funding and say you can do that, then you're certainly not going to be doing that within the next few months. So I would expect if we can keep the current pitch down and it's still okay to use, then the club will probably do that to sort of put that down the road. And then I think we're probably looking at a decision as to reviewing things then. Again, it's impossible to see without sort of seeing the plans and sort of the notion.
It's so obvious that if we do end up having to bite the bullet and eventually put down a grass pitch because we're kind of getting forced into a corner of you're no getting up unless you do it sort of thing, then it's more the fact that then we lose that massive community aspect we've currently got. I mean, my dad was heavily involved with the walking football, for instance. They play every Monday night down there, and they have done for years and years now. And you see constantly, it's just every hour there's another football team comes in. Every hour, just constantly. Yeah. So you're seeing it Monday through to the next Monday, just every day, apart from obviously a match day for the Rovers, that it's getting used all the time. So and it's used literally from basically kids that are not even at school right through to like pensioners. So it's everybody's getting the aspect of it. So I think it would be a massive loss if we were kind of to go back to a grass pitch, if we were kind of forced into that. Like my own personal preference was that, of course, you would love to play football on a perfect grass pitch. We've seen already this month heavily that that's not quite possible in Scotland necessarily, unless you've got the budget to do it. But it's not possible. So I just personally would like us to stick with what we've got. Yes, putting it down a new surface or relay bits it or whatever you have to do, because it sounds like we're going to look to just sort of patch up parts to get past its next test again. But again, if it's good enough for the Champions League, these pitches are good enough for me.
Yeah, I think on that point, the Randolph thing, I think I think there's two sides to it. The wanting to do it for the community and it to be like to broaden the scope of the club and to move up to another end of the town, which is actually Kirkcaldy's kind of two ends effectively. So actually you bring in a lot of folk just by being up that end, as opposed to down at the kind of waterfront. But I think in terms of going to a grass pitch, you almost, as you're saying, Scott, you almost can't go to a grass pitch as it stands at the moment. We don't have, because we don't have anywhere to put the rest of it. Like there's this, this whole thing, this whole system is set up. You can't just go, all right, guys, sorry, we're closing this all down because the Premier League have told us we want grass pitches. I mean, I've had quite a few Twitter conversations this week with mainly fans of the Ugly Sisters, to be fair, who are adamant it's really important we play on grass. Like this, if this last 2 weeks has taught us anything,
they can pay for it. If they want everyone to play on grass, then take some of the money out the Celtic account that they refuse to buy players with and pay for everybody else's grass.
Honestly,
done.
This is, but the thing is, honestly, this is, I'm going to my soapbox now, but this is 10,000 seater stadiums all over again. 100%. It's Turkey's vote for Christmas.
Yeah. Under like, it is the other one.
Yeah, it is so stupid. And every single round that we do of this, 10,000 seats, under soil heating, none of them last because everybody realises that we don't have the finances to run with it. We don't have the finances to make it last. It was actually really interesting because one of the comments that I got, I'd tweeted, I think it was one of the games, the St Johnstone game actually was cancelled. It was just before it got moved to Falkirk, which is actually a lovely bit of irony.
So brilliant.
But it was a Partick Thistle fan that had replied and basically had said that, like, the problem is that some plastic pitches are, or not, I think the original post was all plastic pitches are guff. And I was like, are they all, or is it just some of them? And his reply was about Starks, and he was saying that, well, Starks is pretty bad and the bounce is really unnatural. And I'm like, I think that's really unfair because it wasn't like that at the beginning. It has aged and it is at the point where it needs fixed. It's got a lifespan. It needs to either be improved or replaced. But the club were in a position to do that. They were literally talking about and planning to replace the pitch. And then the SPFL come in with a stupid rule. And then you're caught again in the same position that we were caught in when we built the stadium when we sold Stevie McInnesby, which is you either lay a grass pitch because you want to be in the Premier League, you spend so much money on it that you haven't got a team on the pitch to get you to the Premier League, or you lay a plastic pitch again and just basically say, we've got no ambition, we don't want to be in the Premier League anymore. You're completely caught between a rock and a hard place. You can't please everybody. And in fact, you pretty much can't please anybody. Because if you play, like I say, you lay the plastic pitch and Rovers fans are going, so we're no want to get to the Premier League anymore. Or you lay a grass pitch and then you end up with a team that basically can't get you there anyway. It's so stupid. Sorry, that was a rant.
No, and it's a perfectly valid rant because when you look at it, it's just these blanket statements from fans in the top flight that just come out and they just say, well, I don't like it because of this or that. And it's like, well, you're not looking at the nuance of the situation. You're not factoring in that, like, you've put in a blanket ban when there was no need for a blanket ban to be done at all. Totally. Because you could say, like, have a pitch of a certain standard. It's not like, who's it, Bodo in Norway beat Manchester City. It's not like...
In the Arctic Circle.
Exactly. But it's not like...
Honestly.
They're sitting there with a pitch where Manchester City are like, well, that bounce was terrible. You never hear any complaints about it at a Champions League level. It's just conveniently in a nation that's got a subtropical, effectively, climate that's partial to a lot of rain, with these 10,000-seater stadiums, which ironically creates a problem that half of them can't get the sunlight to maintain the grass.
I read something today. I haven't fact-checked this. I don't know how true it is. It was a Dundee United fan, obviously sticking up for Dundee United for the game being off. Apparently, we've had one day in 2026 so far with no rain.
Aberdeen got half an hour of sunshine today since the end of the year.
But like, how do you possibly expect? How do you expect St Johnstone to be able to play games at the rate that they're expected to play them with the KDM Cup and everything else that's going on, and expect them to be able to put games on a grass pitch in January and in February? It's utter nonsense, and it's always been nonsense. And then we come up with a genuine alternative. And you've got it along the road at Falkirk. And then you get, but Falkirk's not on the East Coast. Come on. Grangemouth is.
We know that from Should McStay or Should Dargo it is a coastal town.
He's a break.
Another thing that these people from these clubs that just think that their pitches are amazing because they're grass is that we're playing currently through the winter. Now, you've got all these Scandinavian countries that play March to October, maybe early November. There's a reason for that because they ken their winters are pish.
It's called logic, Scott.
And then look just across the water, Ireland. They play March to November. Maybe the Scottish football need to look into that if they want to start making every pitch grass like that. That's what they've got to factor in. The fact it's just. We're not in Spain. We're not in Portugal.
I would like to say Spain has been the wettest place in Europe this.
Oh no, I've seen videos of Barcelona as well, but it's more the fact that these countries tend to be the countries that have got better weather than us. But
even in Spain, they take a winter break over the Christmas period, mainly for the Christmas holidays. But there is a break.
Otherwise, maybe they should take a leaf out of the book of the Dutch Football Federation, where the three big teams have all decided they want to play on grass all the time, so they've put a fund together to fund everybody else that comes into them.
Aye.
But you're not going to get that, so it doesn't matter.
Wouldn't be Scottish football, you know, even the UEFA
it's
solidarity
disrespectful
payments. Just
to the fans, to pick up on what Blair said, by forcing it shows no ambition, so it's disrespectful to the fans. They've done it here to a small club in Barcelona, CA Europa, who were one of the founding clubs of the league. They played on an artificial surface in Gracia and got promotion, and were told that you have to move to a real grass surface. Oh, they were like, but where? So they've moved them to the middle of an athletics track, which is just full of shot put holes and divots, and put up a temporary stand.
Can I just ask?
So we're going to play at Balweary High School next season, folks.
Carol, can I just ask, what's the Spanish or Catalan word for meadow?
Tatty field.
What do you mean, like tatty field?
Yeah.
Well, campo is a field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's
but then campo is also, but it's
what's the Spanish word for bank? Because I think we're getting, if you combine those two, then it sounds exactly like a certain stadium in Edinburgh, with a shot put track and a running track around it.
Oh gosh, do you want to know what the word in Catalan for meadow is? Prat.
Aye, that sounds about right.
But Edinburgh City's not even a grass pitch.
Exactly, that's fair. Right. Yeah.
Grass.
Never mind, I'm sure that we'll be sitting here in a year's time with St Johnstone's chairman putting out an open letter to his fans, getting commended on his transparency. No irony lost upon us the fact that he's voted for a ban on artificial surfaces in the top flight,
and is moving his games
but being commended for his honesty about the fact that their drainage wasn't working and it could have been better, and that they're trying all different types of grasses and they're buying new lights for their pitch. But again, not that we've got.
I can tell you right now, it's not the grass's fault.
Aye. We'll need to get Leslie on. We've got the greenkeeper on at the moment. We'll need to get Les back. I mean, not just because we've got a player from Robin's side, but also the fact that he's an expert in climate change to tell us whether Scotland's going to get any sunnier in the future. But aye.
Just make sure it's a post-match, because I can't handle any more of his Should McStay or Should Dargo.
Well, there is that. Carol, there was, to get back to, because we were actually talking about an interview, I think that's probably seen a few people skip forward now. Rury just really reiterating, though, that the club, after a bit of overspending towards the end of that season that we did run it close, made a significant number of sort of decisions that have been maybe tough for them, but the club ultimately in a stable position financially. Was that a positive bit of news to hear, given the sort of, I mean, I know initially sort of people look at the numbers of people that were leaving sort of situation in terms of the club at the moment, maybe crowds have gone down. Positive to hear that we are still in that sort of stable financial position, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, especially as the other clubs do get the investment, is that we may have stagnated a little after the big rush of that really successful season when they first come in, but at least we've stagnated with a stable financial situation, and it's not moving from manager to manager and thinking, okay, if we are 2 losses away from the board having to look down the back of the sofa to pay the players' wages. It's one less stress, I think, for the board, the backroom staff and the management, that's stable, because it's always been rocky. I mean, the Rovers roller coaster has, at least it's not finished going up and down, but I think it's more in a slow up than a steep down.
Yeah, even last season, when you look at the fine margins of how the final day finished. Now, I know a lot got made about sort of, particularly midway through the season, about people being concerned about the direction that we were heading and not winning many games, poor form, and then to finish so close to finishing 4th, where if we do, then we're $100,000 better off. And I think that would take quite a lot of the sort of frustration away if we had been in that place. But yeah, it's generally, for me, I think it's a positive to hear. I really enjoyed the interview to sort of listen to overall. I'm keen to see what changes get made, because I know that there are sort of bits and bobs going on in the background where the club are trying to improve sort of the corporate structure. Those bits that are, while they're difficult to understand, I think they're going to be necessary for us to progress. So keen to see how things pan out. And just keen to see who comes in, the direction that gets taken with the board, whether there's familiar faces coming back, whether it's new faces coming in. see what happens. But I'm sure that they'll be sort of welcomed with open arms from our support and just maybe get a bit more on a positive footing, because it felt like a bit of a reset, that interview, for me. It felt like it was Rury sitting down and sort of, I think there was just needed to be a bit of reassurance, because you know what it's like with conjecture and people sort of taking the ball and running with it. Right, we're almost an hour in, so I suppose we might actually want to start talking about some football for a pre-match podcast. So throw in a timestamp for anyone that's not too interested for the boardroom chatter. So we'll get them back up to speed. The Scottish football wife swap, as it was. Ian Murray has joined Greenock Morton. Blair, a good fit for the ton. Is Dougie Imrie's big bad Raith Rovers come to town?
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? It really is. Dougie Imrie's first time back at Capello. It's Ian Murray in charge. I think it's odd that it's taken him this long to get a job. But I think it is a relatively good fit for him. And this is the bit that might get clipped and brought back to haunt me. But I'm just not convinced. I don't know. I go back to that first season that we had with Ian Murray when he didn't really have the players to kind of work with. And we were pretty lukewarm. Like, we weren't great. That said, when you get 3 or 4 decent kind of signings in and a bit of momentum, he made us into a really good side, and it was the football was pretty good to watch actually as well. To be fair, Murray ball was certainly exciting. If it wasn't harebrained at times, but with the squad he's got along there, I don't know. It doesn't feel a very Murray ball squad. I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to play the kind of way that he wants to play, or the way he wanted to play. Maybe he'll look at what he's got and try and do something different. But yeah, time will tell. I have to say, regardless of the fact that it's Morton, I can only wish him well. As Scott said earlier on, I mean, I've been 30 odd years now watching this, and by far and away the best season that I can remember since, 90s, really, early 90s. And it was, I could do it this time with a beer in my hand, so it was tremendous, because I never got the European run and everything, because I was too young. But yeah, wish him nothing but the best, except for Saturday.
Yeah, naturally, I completely agree with that. I think that it was one to sort of keep an eye on with Ian Murray, and it just seemed, it did, as you rightfully point out, it was very strange that he didn't get one of these opportunities that came up. You had sort of Partick Thistle, Dunfermline, a good few changes came up in our league, even Airdrie. So always touted as an option by the press, but nobody pulled the trigger with it. Mm-hmm. And with that, particularly that second season that he had with us, just to have a season that strong where you run Dundee United close and yet not get anyone to sort of chase up on it following it did seem very strange. Carol, a chance for Ian Murray to sort of prove a point again. I know that the sort of boardroom changes have came at a time where he's maybe not looking at as many familiar faces in the board of directors as possible. But what do you make of the arrival of Ian Murray at Greenock Morton? And as Blair says, how do you think he will get on in general with the job?
I think because it's been such a long period that he has been out of the game, if it had been a very quick wife spot, you would go, okay, he knows that team and Dougie Imrie knows the Morton team. But I think Dougie's going to have the slight upper hand because obviously he knows that Morton squad maybe better than Ian Murray knows that Morton squad at the moment.
That's true.
And Ian Murray doesn't know our squad as well as he used to. So I think it's going to be quite a hard game for Ian Murray. I wish him well after the game, but I think this one is going to be quite a steep learning curve. I know I'm going to get snipped for that, but I don't care.
You're going to get called out on it later on in the
podcast. This is a weekly basis. Somebody's getting done here.
Aye, something is getting done.
I just can't see us losing.
Collectively, everyone straight away.
I've been watching us long enough to know that.
I was going to say I can definitely see us losing.
Everyone just collectively
up, I'm not comfortable.
Just thinking, You've fucked it, mate. You've absolutely fucked it. But a great addition to the podcast, nonetheless. We do want to encourage him back. We're not chasing it away that quickly. Scott, to come back to you, some of the winter business for Greenock Morton. So they had Ferguson join from Hamilton Accies, I should say. Ruben Lopata-White came up from Leeds, a centre-back, I think. And Curtis Main joins on loan from Ayr United. A few players out the door, including Dylan Corr, who quickly got bodied out, firstly on loan and then rather strangely permanently by Ian Murray. And Tommy Adeloye, who still I think is without a club. Rumours that he was off to Saudi Arabia. What have you made of the sort of early business that they've done? And then as well, just a bit about the results as well, Morton, because the start for Ian Murray gets settled in, but then they've got the Scottish Cup away at Stenhousemuir where they get bodied out 4-0, but then a credible draw up against Arbroath and then a win against Ross County. So some mixed fortunes there for an old manager right off the bat.
Yeah, I think for Murray, I think it's going to be interesting in terms of what he's able to do with the squad that he's got. I'd actually completely forgot that Curtis Main went to Morton, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets, because they've obviously still got Brophy there as well, which could be an interesting front two if that's what he decides to go with. I'm not surprised with Dylan Corr leaving, because I mean, he clearly didn't. I mean, the fact that we were playing, it just confirms the reason why Scott Brown was playing centre half all season. That just confirmed the reason that he clearly didn't fancy Dylan Corr. So
it's the episode of The Office with Ricky Gervais in the pub where he just turns around and sees his blind date and he's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" That was Dylan Corr when Ian Murray walks in.
It was papped out on loan after about 3 days or something. Like it was. Hiya, Gaffer.
I didn't think he got to that.
Yeah.
But so it clearly is just a player that he didn't think that was up to scratch or championship level for whatever reason. But and then I mean the other boy that's an FM regen, I don't have a clue about. So he could be good, he could be shite, I reckon. But in terms of Murray, I think we know how. I don't think he's going to change in terms of how he's been as a manager. He's kind of been the same at AirJ, been the same with us. I think he's going to... I mean, managers always say when they leave clubs that they'll take, obviously, the good bits and they'll try and work on the areas that they think that kind of led to their sort of downfall. But I just don't see Ian Murray changing too much. He might have the odd tweak, just the fact that this isn't his squad. Really, like he's taken Dougie Imrie's squad. I think Carol's touched on it there pretty well. Is that Dougie Imrie should know this squad because he signed them.
Yeah.
So like it's literally he signed, apart from Curtis Main and the others that you just mentioned, he has signed every other one of them players. So he'll know exactly what they're good at and what they're not so good at. So it'll be interesting to see if we even approach the game slightly different. The fact that he knows every single player inside and out. Or if Ian Murray's got something up his sleeve to work a bit of magic. But I'll also just echo the fact that I hope that he does actually do well for Morton, and the fact that, and I hope when he does, because we've started playing him, I think, at home later in the season, I hope he does get a decent reception from our fan base as well, because
I'm absolutely certain
I think he did go out in a very odd fashion, to say the least. But it was also the fact that everybody was like, but because folk at first were just like, that was harsh, and then folk came round and they went, actually, nah, they did the right thing, and I think it kind of left you.
I said it took you a while.
Didn't he get
Here we go.
I still think it was the wrong decision.
Blair's just squared the podcast because we're going to 2 hours just by Scott getting upset about this decision again.
But the guy that was involved in that isn't here anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Several of the guys that were involved in that aren't here anymore. Yeah. One thing I would say, Ian Murray's track record against Airdrie, his former club, when we were up against them, was one that he just never seemed to get the better of them. So if he wants to carry that on, by all means. Yeah, I'd say
I was going to say, just sorry, just see in terms of I'm getting a good reception, it starts later. The only way that doesn't happen is they beat us 1-0 in the 94th minute and he stands in front of the crowd with the fingers in the ears. Like, I can see it, to be fair. I'm not going to lie, I can see it.
If you can't laugh at that, though, then
Yeah.
I suspect it will be all right with our fans. It would be more internal that you would have a reason to...
maybe one for Raith stats as well, but I can't remember ever playing 2 games on the bounce where the same striker has been against us, but for 2 different teams. Like, honestly, when that's ever happened.
I'm sure there's probably someone out there, but again,
there's got to be something.
There would be. Yeah, it was like that thing that was doing the rounds on Twitter quite recently about the clubs in England, where it's like first 3 letters of the name, and with Scottish football, it's quite easy because the number of Rosses in Ross County. But Carol, a bit of an eye-catching weekend though at the bottom half of the table. So obviously we play Morton, Dunfermline at home to Partick Thistle, and then you've got Ross County against Queen's Park. Airdrie and St Johnstone is again. Is that the Friday night game or is that being moved?
It's Friday night.
Yeah, just what are your thoughts going into this one? Is it too early to sort of be getting into the territory of sort of 6-pointer? Because again, if Morton win and results elsewhere go our way, then we could be sort of staring down the table. Or do you think we've got to be looking the opposite direction and more of a positive focus?
I think more positive. I heard someone on another podcast today say that people need to kickstart their season. So if that's still available, that you can kickstart your season in the middle of February, then let's kickstart our season and look upwards.
Carol, it's bad enough getting clipped by other podcasts, but we're going to... I mean, it's bad enough getting clipped by other fans of other teams, but if we're getting clipped by other podcasts, then that's going to be a new low for ourselves. I'm sure it has happened already, to be fair.
I mean, you don't want to look down, but I think we have to be realistic. Not looking down as if we're going to go down, but looking at how results are coming up behind us.
Yeah. I mean, last weekend was the one that really frustrated me because I think the weekend before that we'd had such a good weekend in terms of where we were at, and we come away against Queen's Park and we've comfortably beaten them. And then the following weekend, it just kind of, we're back to square one. Very similar to last season. Last season, for large spells, it was sort of like this back and forth pendulum between like, we're fucked and we're absolutely fine. So time will tell.
I think it's just the nature of the league, though, Like, I was just going to say, Duncan that spoke about it before, about like every team beats every team. So you kind of, the idea that we're going to have effectively 4 sides from below us all go on a run and all kind of overcome us. I'm not saying it can't happen. It just, this season feels really unlikely. In the same way that I don't see us finishing the season, even if we don't make the playoffs, which is like obviously a likelihood at this point because we're outside at the moment. I don't see us being 10, 15 points off the playoffs by the end of the season any more than I see us being bottom 2. Like, it's just, I don't think anybody in the league at any point actually now is putting a run together of 4, 5, 6 games, let alone 4 teams doing it or 3 teams doing it, like for the league to really swing. You've got to hope that we've got enough about us to kind of steer clear of any major problems. But crisis Rovers, who knows?
I was looking earlier on, and I think there's only like 1 or 2 weekends between now and the end of the season where teams in the bottom half of the league aren't playing each other. So somebody's going to be taking points off someone at some point, by its very nature, given the circumstances. Right, let's turn our attention to Rovers. Big Innes has arrived in the building. Scott arrives from Barrow, who, in their own wee bit of turmoil, sacking managers left, right and centre down there apparently, but not that I follow them too closely. But we've got our resident Obanite. Is that what you term a person from Oban? Leslie Mabin's absolutely delighted to have one to be repping for his local town. With Innes Cameron joining from Barrow, what did you make of the move for him to sort of address there have been sort of long time grumbles about, well, we've not signed a forward, to be able to go out and quite directly address that by bringing in the big man?
Well, it's good to finally have another forward in the door, because I mean, it was just day after day during January, just when we getting a striker, when's he coming, who can we get, and it was just like it got to. Was he announced on deadline day?
Yeah, I think he must have been, because
'Cause
deadline day would have been for cross-border loans.
I wasn't sure if it was the day before deadline day or not, but it was more just the fact that we knew fine well, and the club knew, and Dougie knew, but like it was just slowly every day it got closer to the deadline, and I know Dougie kept on saying, "Look, we can actually still go within Scotland for February and all that sort of stuff." But I think if we hadn't done anything before the window shut, I would have been a little bit more worried going in. Just the fact that we know certain players in certain positions what their injury history is, and you're like, well, we didn't want to be relying on just one or two guys to stay fit all the time. I mean, so I'm glad to get him in the door. I've heard very sort of mixed reviews of certain fans of clubs that have had him in the past. I mean, there's been guys that I know that are Kelly fans that have said that they didn't think that he actually got a fair sort of crack of the whip there, and thought that he'd done an alright job when he did get given a chance. I've seen Queen South fans say he was the worst player to ever play for their club, so God knows what we're going to get. But I just hope that it gives maybe Jack Hamilton's sort of food for thought. Right, my place isn't guaranteed in this team now, and it maybe sort of it's competition for places up there, and it just gives us a separate sort of option up there, because I don't think he's going to be exactly like Jack Hamilton plays football. I think he's going to be more of I think he's actually going to be a target man. That's what this guy's going to be brought in to do. I mean, he claimed in his interview that he's got a bit of pace about him and that he can run in behind. But, I mean, I can't really remember too much of him when he played against us. But I think it's just more the fact that it's a big body to get in, somebody that can maybe sort of ruffle up a few feathers in the sort of opposition centre halves. And let's just see. I'm glad actually that he got that he's ended up coming in it when he did, because it means that he's now had basically. Well, I know that the boys had a few days off, but he's had the thick end a week and a half at least of training. But it's not like he's turned up on a Friday and he's in the squad on Saturday sort of thing. So hopefully the boys have all been able to sort of see how he plays. He's fitting into our systems, and hopefully it's. Gets a few goals between now and the end of the season, that would be a success, I would say.
Yeah, one thing that jumped about me is when we did sign Ennis Cameron, was that it got leaked by a journalist down Kilmarnock way, because I think they've got sort of close ties to him. They also said that Ayr had apparently been interested in signing him as well. But for him to come to Rovers over Ayr, I suppose you've got to give Dougie Imrie a degree of credit if you're taking that at any face value, to sort of say that we've went out our way to get the player in the door. Keen to see how he does. As you say, very different.
I think also, just adding to that point, did Dougie or did Ennis not say in his interview that Dougie tried to sign him before?
Yeah,
maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah. So, players are always going to want to feel wanted by a manager. And Ayr didn't even bring in anyone else up top, even though they've had Curtis Bain out the door. So it does make you kind of wonder whether they've tried to maybe make a move at some point for one player, or they've kind of, whether they've hoped for Cameron to come in, and it's just not panned out. Carol, I think that our last away win was actually at Capello. So since then, obviously, been on the road numerous times and not been able to come away with a victory. Do you think that's sort of the clear point of weakness for the sort of run-in that the team as such need to be addressing? Hopefully going out and maybe creating that. I know it was very direct, that long ball up to Dylan Easton, but it was effective. He got his head on it.
They worked on that.
Aye, we worked on that, according to Barry.
Well, it can't be much. No, I think picking up on what you said with the Rury interview, let's take this as a restart. Let's kick our season, whatever combination of words we want to take. And yeah, I think our away form has been frustrating, if anything. And it's not frustrating for the results, but also just frustrating because we've not deserved to win, or we've gone a goal down and we're just constantly chasing our arses. It'd be really nice if we came out and scored within the first 20 minutes, so we weren't chasing the game. That would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, within that, we've had that sort of the game against Queen's Park back in November, Barry Robson's last game. I mean, I think that if it was going to go anyway, you would have sort of said towards us based on sort of the chances there.
Yeah,
700 penalty box entries.
Well, that's it. Credible draw up at St Johnstone. You've got a credible draw away at Partick Thistle in there as well. Some tough grounds when you look back. So maybe it's not always.
The only thing I would. On you go,
I was going to say, sorry, that last half an hour down at Ayr 2 weeks ago. If we do that more and do the first hour less, we'll do better. It sounds so trite and it's so daft, but there are times when I've been following the Rovers where you're watching them week in, week out, and you're like, we're guff. We are actually guff. Like, we're just not very good. And there have been times where you go, actually, we're a really good football inside, and games come and go and stuff. This team, more than probably many that I've watched us, have both genuinely got both in the locker. They can be really good and they can be guff. And like I think it's we've said a lot this season. Like we're one striker, we're a James Fowler away from being in fourth or third. Like we're no far away. And Vaughan coming back to fitness, if we can keep that going, he made a massive difference down at Ayr. And if you chuck in an extra striker and then a scammer,
if we'd got those three in, it would have been a different story.
Well,
and that's the energy
I'll
that we
stick
need
with
to
you,
start
Blair.
with.
Does Lewis Vaughan, does he need to start this one based on the sort of performance down at Ayr? He gets his goal. Hopefully at a point where his now fitness is becoming one that will be able to see him take more and more time on the pitch.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the fitness thing and how close he is. If he's at the stage where you can get an hour out of him, then you start him for me. I think he's a real creative spark. I think the downside to kind of him coming on the last half an hour or so down at Ayr is that Dylan had kind of run his race by that point. And so we've still not really seen an awful lot of Easton and Vaughan together, which is exciting. Like, it's exciting to watch those two kind of playing football together. So if we can get that and potentially have I have no idea, like as Scott says, no idea how Innes Cameron's going to do, like how good he's going to be. But like, if we chuck in an extra striker or somebody that can either be feeding Vaughan or vice versa, like, I just think it gives us that little bit of hope going into Saturday that there is something different available that we can do. I mean, Capello's always had a relatively good surface as well. I know there's been a lot of rain, more so the East Coast than the West, but Capello's always been a relatively good surface. I'd like to see us kind of going there and trying to play some good football. And I just think Vaughan's so crucial to that. But that said, if you're only going to get half an hour out of him, then he's a second half sub. So it all depends on that fitness. But hopefully that 2 weeks off effectively in terms of no match. I know they played a bounce game, which I believe they pumped Hamilton in, from what I've heard. Then you'd hope that confidence is pretty high. If fitness is there, for me, he's got to start.
And to turn to yourself, Scott, one player that we'd had a bit of an update about recently has been potentially coming back for this one. Now, whether he's going to be ready to appear in match fitness or game time, Lewis Stevenson. How big a boost would it be to sort of see his name on a team sheet?
Yeah, I think it would be really good to get Lewis back. I think I'd be surprised if he's fit enough to probably be starting. I think you'll definitely see Ewan Wilson starting again on Saturday. Just the fact that it sounds like this is the first game that he'll be available for Lewis Stevenson. So I would be surprised if he was chucked straight back in. But I think some of the experience that Lewis Stevenson's got at this level as well, you want him in and around your team, whether even if he is on the bench, he's a more than welcome sub to bring on if you need him to come on and make an impact in terms of defensively as well. I mean, if Wilson's even struggling in a game come half time or an hour in and we're holding on to a lead or something, you've got somebody experienced like Lewis Stevenson that you can bring on and shore things up as well. So, and he's still in incredible shape for like his age as well. So I think someday it won't take him long, I don't think, to get up to fitness again. Anyway, so even if Dougie Imrie thinks that he's doing really well in training this week, I suppose there is a chance that maybe he does get put back in the team. But I would be surprised to see him flung straight back in straight away. But yeah, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, because you've got that in as well on top of it. I know that he'd said that Fordyce will be a few weeks behind, but then potentially Sean Byrne, nobody really knows in terms of the situation with him. I think it's because we've had that week off that it's really hard to sort of know the direction of where the lay of the land is, whether there's any more injuries, because, you know, it's Raith Rovers, these things happen. But as well as to how we set up. I mean, Carol, what sort of direction do you think we'll take with it? And do you think there's going to be any potential impact of that week off? Do you think it'll be a positive that we've maybe had a bit of time to sort of recoup and rejuvenate potentially?
I think it's the Vaughan question, is that if he is fit enough to start, that's the only change I can see being made, unless Dougie Imrie goes complete Dougie ball and changes it to match up to the team that he knows best. But I just think that if we don't want to keep chasing games, we need to come out all guns blazing. But it is a question of injury, so maybe the extra week has just let players have an extra stretch, an extra massage, an extra bit of TLC.
Yeah, I mean it's really the opposite of the Queen's. After the Queen's Park game, going into that Ayr game, when you've got sort of questions about players, how much can we use them? Maybe some players needing a bit of a rest after having a midweek game. So we'll see how we do. I'll not trouble you for lineups. Should we do Should McStay or Should Dargo to round us off this evening? We're already sitting about an hour and 20 in.
Why not? Folk can switch off if they don't want to hear us go.
I'm sure it'll be quick.
Carol, you've prepared this one for us, so
okay.
I'll let you lead the way.
So I have made just under 400 senior appearances with 16 goals.
I thought you were about to say 16 clubs there.
Yeah.
I was hoping she would say 16 clubs, to be fair.
Just to be clear, Carl, that's not for the Rovers. Because that's I was going to say that's a really specific clue that narrows it down to about 3 folk. 416. Right.
I'll go. I don't know. That seems maybe a bit high because I think he had injury problems before. I'll start off with Grant Gillespie. Just topical with
400 games is what, 10 seasons ish, 12 maybe, 10, 12 somewhere in there.
Tell you who it wasn't. Dylan Corr under Ian Murray.
Did he even get 16 games?
Yeah.
Did he get 16 minutes?
By the way, Grant Gillespie was probably quite a good shout, actually.
It's topical for who we're playing, but it's no Robbie that's doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll go for another Grant then. Grant Murray.
Also topical. He's been in the news back in at Livingston, hasn't he?
Yeah, good to see that.
Steve Davy Martindale was caught still on a radio last night as if he's still the manager.
400 games. Chris, it could be anybody. Stevie Simmons. No idea. Could be anybody.
My senior debut was against our opponents in December of 98.
Well, it wasn't Grant Gillespie then.
I'm sticking with Grant Murray.
So against Morton in 1998.
Actually, Murray might have been earlier than that. Was Grant Murray in that 98 side that won the cup for Hearts?
He was. He didn't get on the bench in the final.
But did he start at Hearts or did he start at Kelly?
He started at
No,
Hearts.
started at Hearts.
Aye.
Sure he was.
I'll stick with Grant Murray then.
He was at Kelly for a long time though.
Yeah.
A bit of one out. See, I think it'll be two. I suspect he's made his debut in like 96 or 97. And Jay Steen.
By the way. Yes.
I barely can who that is.
Used to be my post, Jay Steen. After he moved part-time.
I think it's maybe a bit late for this one, but I'm thinking also current, or topical rather. Andy Millen.
To give you a kick, because I know it helps you, Blair, to visualise, I look lovely in red and have worn some kits to be remembered.
Oh, so it's no Andy Millen then. That would be the Remember top. So 2013.
I'm sticking with Grant Murray then.
By the way, if you can't have pulled that out for 400 games and 16 goals, Scott. That's mental.
No, but the thing there as well.
Anyway.
No.
You just remember the
I'm
grand.
mostly in red. That would.
The thing with Red as well is he scored that belter at East End in that red kit as well.
He did, aye.
Pataudry would have been the blue. Aye.
But actually, was he not the manager at the time that we played in the Remember top?
Was he
That
not
was
there?
when we won at Ibrox.
Yeah, he would have been because it was
would
the.
be over.
Was he
Yeah.
player manager at any point? I can't mind if he was.
So the
I'm just
Remember
trying to
top was
remember players who played in that
2014.
top.
It was 2014. He was
Have we had
definitely
Joe Cardle
manager
before?
by that point because it was the season we won the Ramsden's Cup.
Chip. Aye.
Because we wore it for the centenary of the First World War ending, which was 1914.
But we had it over 2 seasons, did we not? Because we
Or
had
we
it
have
the
it the
season
season after as well.
Because we had it the season that Hearts, Hibs, and Rangers were all in the Championship. Because we wore it against Hearts in the centenary game of McRae's battalion.
I've not got a better answer, so I'm still sticking.
I don't
with
think
Grant
he.
Murray.
I don't think he played in that top. I think he
I
would have
don't
stopped
think so
playing by
either,
that
but he
point.
looked good and red when he scored that volley at
He
East End.
does.
So
That's
He did.
undeniable logic
He really
there,
did.
Scott. So we'll give you that.
He really did. I'm trying to think who we've no had as well. There's a few out of that squad we've already had. Callum Elliott's been.
Because I think we've had Joe Cardle,
Yeah, I think so.
No, actually, if it's anything to do with it, remember then. I was thinking actually, again, he played in the sort of red top would have been Sloan.
What about Kevin Moon? I'll go with Kevin Moon.
I was
Was that
about
who
to
you
say
were
David
thinking?
McGurn, and I remembered it was 16 goals. It's definitely not David McGurn.
I'll go with Kevin Moon. Albeit, now that I'm thinking that, did he play in that Remember top?
He would have done because he played beside.
that
Liam
season.
Fox.
Yeah, it was the team that won the Ramsden's Cup. They all played in it because that was their way top.
Aye.
Or was that the third? Because we played in the white top, did we not, in the Ramsden's Cup final?
Aye.
Yeah,
But that was
No,
the whole
white,
top that
the
season.
white top was the
Was it
home
the-
kit that season.
Yeah.
yeah.
Aye.
It was that traditional home top.
Built
So
like
who
a
have you
kit.
gone for? Did you go Fox or Moon there?
I went with Moon, so you're going to go Fox. Like, it's just been
I'm
decided.
thinking
Like,
about
you're
it.
not even getting a chance.
Yeah, I'll go Moon.
No, you won't. I
Fox.
went Moon.
You're going Moon. I'll go
Fox.
Fox. You. I don't think it's him because I don't think he'll
Aye.
have. 400 games is a lot.
I know it probably lends itself
That's a
more to
lot.
Liam Fox than it's more of a Fox than a Moon.
St. Valentine's is the patron saint of lovers, beekeepers, and travellers. If you were to travel by bike to the grounds that I played in that order, you would log over 211 miles on your Strava.
Oh,
Right, Leslie, calm down.
That's not a lot. 211 miles is not a lot. You can loop Fife as 100 miles. That's not a lot. So
Kevin
he's not
I'm sticking with
played.
Kevin Moon.
He's definitely not played
Up and down the
Inverness.
country.
Yeah, he's not all over the
Perth,
place. 200
Kirkcaldy.
miles is
He's,
not a lot.
he's
Stirling.
somebody that's basically played in the Central Belt then.
Aye, so I'm
Yeah,
thinking
that's
Kevin
not a
Moon
lot
was
at all.
like St Johnstone, Rovers, maybe went to St Johnstone, Alloa, Rovers, and then Stirling, and then
Yeah, we've had Conroy already, haven't we?
Mm.
Conroy's been.
I'm
What about,
starting to go with it might not be Grant Murray, but
I'm actually
Grant
going down the
Murray's
same line as you now, Scott. Laurie Ellis looks great in red from the game up at Dundee.
has he not played a fair bit more than 400?
I honestly, I think we're underestimating how much 400 is.
Oh no, I
400
get it.
is
It's
like
a lot of games.
400 is like
but-
12 seasons, pretty much playing every week. There's
well,
no
put it
many
this way,
players.
I'm no quite up to date with all the stats of the games played with the Rovers, but he must be no far off 300 odd for the Rovers.
But he's also only played. He's only played what Raith, Cowdenbeath,
St. Mirren.
Cowdenbeath.
Raith, St Mirren,
St.
Cowdenbeath,
Mirren.
Stirling.
and Stirling. It's all in the Central Belt.
Strikes
He
me
has
as
also been the caretaker manager of Raith, Dundee United
It's gotta
twice before a spell at Queen's Park, and is currently in the Rangers Academy.
Yeah, it's
There you
Laurie
go,
Ellis.
Laurie Ellis.
done.
It was good.
I'm just waiting for
That was
Blair to
good.
say the line.
Oh, it's just genuinely lovely to hear his name.
Thank you. That's a
in
stump for
fairness,
this evening.
he also falls into the very handsome category. He was in the Macmillan Club a few weeks ago for, I can't remember what game it was. It might be the Ross County game. I can't mind.
I think he was commentating on the first half on Raith TV.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Just a genuinely great guy. Love Laurie Ellis.
Once saw him waiting on a bus to go to Portobello with his family, and I shout out to speaking to him because I was like, I can't go over and be like, here, you've won a cup for us. You're a legend. Just
And
pure
to be
strange
fair-
interaction.
To be fair, looked great at Dens Park in red as well.
He did. Is that all he's played 400 games?
396 senior appearances, 16 goals.
how
Raith,
many
St
for
Mirren,
the
Raith,
Rovers?
Cowdenbeath, Stirling Albion, Raith.
You know what? One of my favourite memories of Laurie Ellis is, and you can go back and watch this on Daniel Elder's YouTube channel with his extensive highlights collection that he's gathered over the years. The game against Dunfermline, where Ian Davidson got the first, and then Laurie gets the second, and it's like a ball in, and he taps it home at a corner, or heads it home at a corner, but he's on a booking, and he completely forgets, so he runs off into the crowd to celebrate, and then he realises that he's getting hugged by people, and then he's having to push himself out the crowd, and he looks raging at himself because he's forgotten that he's been booked and
Just
that he was
lost it
about to get
against it.
sent off. And fortunately, the referee just never picked it up. But aye, I should say, Blair, lovely to hear the name. And
That goal at Dens Park. Oh,
yes,
just so good.
Lovely and
So
red.
such a good run. And the photo after, again, of course, iconic.
Yeah.
Not just for you, Blair, because I'm sure you're in that one
Aye,
as well, aren't you?
right in the
Right
front
at the
row,
front.
Loved
Well,
it.
anyway, as ever, thank you for taking the time to listen. We'll see how we get on with this Jilted Lovers football match that's coming up at the weekend. And fingers crossed that we're back with our first away win since the last time that we were at Capello. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and of course, bye for now.